Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching TopTenzNet, and in the video today, the top 10 ridiculous things found in Osama Bin Laden's compound. The Season 1 bad dude of the ongoing blockbuster series, America's Endless War on Terror, Osama Bin Laden, was once the face of Islamist terror. Before ISIS popped up and stole his crown, the bearded zealot behind such crowd pleasers as 9/11 and the 7/7 bombings spent his days as the most wanted, most feared man on earth. For 10 years between 9/11 and 2011, he remained in hiding in a compound in Pakistan. From this compound, he directed the most feared series of attacks the Western world had ever seen. At least that's what he was supposed to be doing, but it turns out that Al-Qaeda's founder was as big on procrastination as he was on fundamentalist religion. Over the years since they took him out, the CIA have released swath after swath of files found on Bin Laden's computer. So far, the picture they've painted is less of a criminal mastermind and more of a dude with a serious addiction to filling his empty hours with as much bizarre, perverted, and hilarious stuff as possible. So, shall we dive into some of those items? Number 10. 30 crocheting videos. One is the deadliest terrorist to have ever lived. The other is a gentle way of unwinding, beloved by grandmas across the world. At first glance, you wouldn't assume that Osama Bin Laden and the art of crocheting had much in common. But you would be very wrong. When the CIA went looking around inside the Al-Qaeda leader's computer for terrorist material, they found something a little unexpected. Saved to the computer's hard drive were nearly 30 videos instructing viewers on crocheting. The exact patterns these sweet YouTube grandmas were teaching Bin Laden is sadly unknown, alas. However, we're guessing they weren't as obvious as images of planes slamming into towers or Al-Qaeda raising the black flag over the White House. No, that would have probably pulled the CIA right in. Most likely they're images of ducks bobbing along in the water or cats playing with balls of yarn. How sweet. We should also probably note that other people did have access to Bin Laden's computer, and it's totally possible that one of his compound buddies was the crocheting addict. Still, the image of Al-Qaeda's top guy settling down for a night of crocheting isn't one we're going to forget in a hurry. Number 9. Old Mr. Bean episodes. They say the great thing about Mr. Bean is that the humor can translate into any language in the world. Apparently, this also includes the language of cold-blooded psychopathy. Alongside Bin Laden's stash of crocheting videos were reams of old Mr. Bean episodes and both of the later movies. As anyone who's ever had to sit through Mr. Bean's holiday will tell you, you have to be a real nutcase to wring any enjoyment out of that sack of poop. At the time of his death, Bin Laden was sharing his compound with 5 of his children, 4 of his grandchildren, enough wives to satisfy a Turkish sultan, and an adult son who discovered too late that he couldn't protect his father from a Marine's bullet using just his head. So if we were being generous, we'd probably say that the videos belong to one of them. However, since this is Bin Laden we're talking about, we have absolutely no need to be generous whatsoever. That moron probably even thought that Peter McNichol was the funny one in Bean. What an idiot. Number 8. Adult movies. Lots of adult movies. Look, we get it, we really do. You're on the run from the most powerful nation in the world, you've got drones buzzing around overhead, the CIA sniffing around your backyard, and a network of assassins from Mossad to MI6 all looking to turn your head into something they can stuff. In those circumstances, who among us could possibly find time for our many, many wives? Who can concentrate on putting some wood into the little fellow when there's a chance that a tomahawk might just blow your mini Bin Laden off? All of which go some way towards explaining something else found on Bin Laden's computer. Way back in 2011, Reuters broke the story that Bin Laden's hard drive was absolutely swimming with pornography. The terrorist mastermind had an apparently extensive collection of modern pornography. We're assuming that modern here is code for hardcore fetish stuff, but, well, who knows? Maybe the mass murderer was just really into 50 Shades of Grey. Number 7. Wedding videos. Even bad guys need time to unwind occasionally. Who could forget that photograph of Hitler going sledding, for example? Osama Bin Laden was no exception. After a hard week's plotting to overthrow the current world order and/or crocheting, the big cheese of international terrorism liked to do traditional family things. By that, we mean he liked to watch wedding videos sent to him by one of his sons who had got married. Oh yes, in this video, that is Bin Laden Jr. getting married and sitting around with a bunch of Al-Qaeda bigwigs. So what's the highlight of the full-length video? Well, the Al-Qaeda guys do some sort of halfway sitting down weird dance. I mean, who said terrorism is incompatible with partying? Number 6. Memes. So we haven't actually told you the most intriguing thing about all this mad stuff raised from Bin Laden's computers. The computers in the compound weren't just off-the-shelf models. They were specially built and incapable of connecting to the internet. That means that every single electronic item you read about here had to be specifically requested by Bin Laden, downloaded by someone else, and brought to the compound in secret, and then uploaded onto Bin Laden's computer. Bear all of that in mind when you hear this next bit. Among Bin Laden's files were a whole load of memes. The most notable one was the Charlie Bit My Finger video. You might remember that video was back on YouTube when it used to just be a fun distraction rather than a Hollywood challenging monolith. While this video has since been surpassed hundreds of times, back then, in 2007 to 2009, it was big enough that Bin Laden needed to see it. Imagine being one of those kids knowing that a terrorist has enjoyed watching you act all adorable. Pretty weird, right? Number 5. Western movies. Maybe we're expecting too much here, and feel free to call us naive, but when mass-murdering lunatics hate Western culture enough to kill nearly 3,000 people in the name of suppressing it, we tend to take them at their word. But apparently, we were wrong to do so. The leader of Al-Qaeda wasn't just a nasty, creepy murderer, he was a nasty, creepy murderer with a sideline in hypocrisy. Among the files the CIA unearthed from Bin Laden's computer were endless Western movies. We don't mean movies that were subversive or poked fun at the American establishment, like the stuff by Oliver Stone or Michael Moore. We mean the exact sort of middle-of-the-road Hollywood fare that Bin Laden's followers probably thought epitomized Western decadence. Among these, there was a copy of Pixar's Cars, there was a copy of Chicken Little, and a copy of Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. To be fair, there was more cerebral fare, such as National Geographic documentaries, but, I mean, come on. Number 4. Softcore 1990s arcade games. Okay, this one is a little bit freaky, even by the standards of the rest of this video. Remember how we told you back at number 8 about Bin Laden's extensive porn collection? Well, it turns out it wasn't just normal porn that the world's most wanted man was into. One of the things he also liked was to unwind with a bit of animated softcore. And we don't mean animated by regular standards, we mean he liked to play softcore 1990s arcade games with pixelated boobs and badly drawn women in various states of undress. We really do need to stress here that these games are in no way titillating if you live at any time outside of the early to mid-90s, and in any place except your mum's basement. Games like Fantasy 95 or Perestroika Girls were only games in the sense that you moved a joystick, and only pornographic in the sense that moving that joystick slowly revealed animated women wearing a whole lot of nothing. These things were less erotic than Airborne Ebola when they were made, and in the 2000s when Bin Laden was holed up, they were the electronic equivalent of getting off over photos of a woman showing her ankles. Number 3. Anime. Unless you're fairly au fait with your anime, you probably haven't heard of Detective Conan, also known in the West as Case Closed. This is a show that is perhaps just about the most Japanese thing in existence. It features a mastermind detective who is accidentally infected with an experimental poison that turns him into an elementary school kid. He then keeps solving cases from inside the body of a child, while everyone not from Japan feels kind of awkward about the whole setup. So far, the show has had over 800 episodes, and it's run from 1994 until the present. And now do you want to guess who was a big fan of it? Oh yes, it was Bin Laden. Several episodes were found in his computer, and they were all fan videos subtitled into Arabic by a user on some Arabic anime forum. Like you, we're very curious what Osama Bin Laden saw in this. Sadly, we're probably never going to know the answer because good news, he's dead. Number 2. Reviews of American cable news. So here's an unexpected fact. Sometime in the mid-2000s, Bin Laden apparently decided his image needed a little polishing, so he began toying with the idea of going on an American cable news show and allowing himself to be interviewed. To decide who would get his interview, and to be fair, it would be one hell of a scoop, he composed a set of reviews of American news shows. The results are pretty interesting to say the least. For example, Bin Laden apparently considered CNN and Fox News to be equally biased in exactly the same direction, which we are sure will come as a surprise to anyone alive and awake today. He was apparently a one-time fan of MSNBC, which he considered neutral, only to fall out with that channel when Keith Olbermann left. ABC he called all right and wrote about how they might be good from an Al-Qaeda marketing perspective. So what was the channel he admired the most? Well, that would be CBS. For some reason, he considered it unbiased and the perfect place to air an interview, presumably right between reruns of The Big Bang Theory, because nothing says family entertainment like the rantings of a deranged terrorist. Number 1. Where in the world is Osama Bin Laden? In 2011, the former scourge of McDonald's, Morgan Spurlock, starred in a documentary entitled Where in the World is Osama Bin Laden? In it, he went around the Arab world, jokingly interviewing regular folk about terrorism. The results apparently weren't all that great. Roger Ebert gave the film 2 stars in a review that makes it sound like he should really have only gotten 1 star. No, indeed, we're not bringing Spurlock's film up because of its quality. No, we're bringing it up because this movie was indeed watched by Osama Bin Laden himself. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below, and do not forget to subscribe for brand new videos just like this every day of the week. Also check out my new channel, Biographics. We do biographies of notable people from history. Indeed, we have done a biography on Osama Bin Laden, so please go over and check it out. A link is in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching.